Welcome back, everybody, to Them Dragons, though. This is the official Game of Thrones podcast for Grind City Geek. My name is Duncan, and with me, as always, is Garrett.
Hello.
And making his triumphant return to the podcast is Will.
Boom, 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 boom.
Will, it's good to have you back, man.
It's good to be back.
We missed you so much. All right, so
They tried to lock me out.
So this is the weekly show where we cover and discuss and recap every new episode of season 7 of Game of Thrones. Will, you weren't here last week. In 60 seconds or less, let's get your quick thoughts on what happened last week.
Dracarys. The episode was fire.
Literally.
I mean, yes, literally and figuratively. It was amazing. Probably one of my favorite Game of Thrones episodes, period. If it's not better than Hard Home or Battle of the Bastards, it's right up there. I can't choose between those three because I think most people would say those are the three best. This one's right there. We saw Jaime trying to end it all foolishly, which was awesome. And then the dragon right there, of course, Bronn saved him. Everything about that was just heavy-handed. You have dragons, you can take it over. So I enjoyed it.
Well,
and Khaleesi's smelling herself right now.
Well, a lot of people were, that I saw on Twitter and stuff like that were saying, this is the best episode ever. This is the top 5 best episode ever. Was it one of those for you? Would you consider? Ooh, I got a little burp there. Would you consider it one of your favorite episodes?
Yeah, definitely.
So this week's episode, however, following up the fire, as Will so eloquently put it, of last week's episode, Eastwatch. Just real quick, what did we think about this episode? We just got done watching it just 5 minutes ago. What were our initial thoughts?
They gave a fake kind of posturing from Cersei, like she still thinks she can do it. Like, no, it's not gonna happen. And I know she's got Dr. Frankenstein working with her Dark Maester. I don't know what he's cooking up, but I don't think they have anything right now that can handle 1, let alone 3 dragons when they just slaughtered thousands upon thousands of their infantry, so to speak. And then the White Walkers. I know she's going to try to do some kind of underhanded. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm going too deep into it.
What about you, Garrett?
Good episode to follow up the action we had last week.
Yeah, it's sort of like if last week was a peak, then I wouldn't necessarily say that this is a valley, but it's definitely. It's so much craziness happened last week that
they kind of just pull everything back together,
right?
And for you not have watched the seasons of Game of Thrones, it's kind of what they do.
I can appreciate an episode like this.
It's usually how it ends up. Episode 8 and 9 of the other 6 seasons, they tend to have this big battle or big, like the climax of the season, and then we kind of come back down to reality and we see kind of where all of the stones are going to lie. And so it was a good episode. I enjoyed it.
Yep. I always freaking forget to do this. The whole reason for this show existing is, both of you guys have watched every season of Game of Thrones multiple times at this point. And the reason why I'm on this show is because I have not. So it's sort of like a back and forth kind of thing. I don't have the experience with the show that some most other people do, and that's and the reason for that is I'm here to represent the people who don't watch this show because they think it's too far into the series. There's 6 now 6.5 seasons worth of material to sort of take in, and it's a lot to do, and I'm sort of here to represent. I'm here to say that it is possible to jump into this show not knowing a whole lot and to still get something out of it. And it doesn't help when you've got friends friends like you guys who are kind of there to hold my hand along the way, trying to help me figure out kind of what's going on. So yeah, this episode though, Eastwatch, sort of it opens up. I was curious if we were going to get an answer to the whole. If Jaime survives, or if he was going to make it or not, and we get an answer to that right off the bat. he is what's Braun. Braun's the guy's name that ends up saving him. What I mean, were you guys? What did we think about that an answer to that quick?
It surprised me, honestly. I don't feel like Game of Thrones has the track record of picking up right where we left off.
Yeah,
from last week.
I figured they would have strung us along a little bit.
But no, I just feel like they had left so much on the table with Jaime falling into the abyss, and Bronn, the one knocking him off the horse before Drogon could burn him to a crisp like he did everyone else. But no, it was. I love Jaime and Bronn on screen together. Like personally, I love Bronn almost with anybody. With Tyrion, with Jaime, just the way he is, the way he conducts himself. Like he's just like straight shooter. I'm out for money. I don't care about a name and a title and all this stuff. Like he's like, I want a castle and I want my money. I want to get paid. So any banter they have together, always fantastic for me.
Yeah. What about you, Will? I mean, what did you think about getting an answer to the what happens to Jaime so quickly?
Thought it was pretty crappy. They wrapped it up.
Yeah,
I know I'm always the Debbie Downer. It's nice that they're both alive. I thought more realistically from how far they made it seem like he went down that he would have been captured or killed immediately at worst. But my goodness, those Westeros swimmers are amazing.
Dude, they swam pretty far too.
Michael Phelps, look out.
Yeah, they made it to they got away from those dragons or that dragon pretty quickly.
Yeah, he takes the Greg Louganis dive and then Michael Phelps it across in full armor. He swam.
Well, that's why Bronn always says like he doesn't wear the armor because it makes him swifter and quicker, and he can get the upper hand.
There you go.
It kind of paid off in this situation. But I mean, that was the thing, and Will and I discussed that while watching it. It was just kind of almost like hysterical how Bronn swam that far, carrying Jaime with all of this heavy like iron armor and
BS.
It was just kind of
you got to call it out.
Hey. But that's kind of the way that we're going to have to go from here on out until the end of the series. So they got to speed it up a little bit. But
right.
I didn't have a problem. I didn't have a huge problem with it.
Just real quick, because I know we're probably transferring over to that segment. All the boat rides are very swift.
Dude, yeah. Man, they freaking teleport in those boats, man.
Like if you get in the water, you're there immediately.
It's like
episode.
It's like freaking it's like using swim in Pokemon Gold.
Dude, imagine if
using swim and Lugia.
Daenerys was trying to cross over with the Dothraki this episode. I mean, it would have been there like the first 5 minutes.
Man, but speaking of Daenerys, following that we get a pretty great moment from, or at least I thought it was a great moment from this episode. The surviving Lannister soldiers are asked by Daenerys to pledge their allegiance to her or to sort of suffer the consequences. And what would you say, about 3/4 of them all decided to take a knee, except for, I guess maybe about 1/4 of them, especially the Tarleys, Dickon, and what's the dad's name?
Randall.
And they say that they're like, sorry, we already have a queen, and they suffer the consequences for it in the form of dragon fire.
I get Randall Tarley. Like I understand that. Like he's loyal. He's older. He's lived through. He's lived through Robert Baratheon, Aegon Targaryen, Cersei, Joffrey, Tommen. Like he's seen his kings and queens, and he's loyal to who's the leader now. But Dickon's made no sense to me. Like I understand like your father, but I don't know, man. Like I love my dad and all, but at the same time, if I see this dragon, I'm like, I'm about to die. I'm pretty sure my dad would be like, no, it's fine. And that's what, his dad tried to do. Randall Tarley's like, no, this is just some boy in my army. And, he's like, no. And then finally, Dickon kind of just says his name. And I was just like, you're an idiot. So it was kind of OV for him.
I think the writers wrote that as kind of a fan reaction. But then again, this episode was already done. So maybe they already knew Dickon was going to annoy people. He was rude to Sam, I'm guessing. And he was overall just not an enjoyable character. There's just nothing about him struck me well. Not even his forthrightness was enjoyable. He was just kind of smug and stiff.
Tyrion seems to do his best to keep it from happening, though. He really does not want to see, I guess, more bloodshed.
These are his people.
Right.
Yeah, I mean that's the thing too. Like he knows the Tarleys, and he sees the Lannister men, and we talked about this. Like he's just not for violence, any kind. Like no bloodshed, even if like it's burnt to a crisp. Like even last episode, like they kept like painting over to him and his face, and I think one was his brother was there, but at the same time he's just, I just don't want to see this kind of deal. But they kind of made him watch it, so
right. And then
also that's the end of the house for the Tarleys. I mean, their whole house is gone.
Well, Sam's still there. Sam,
he took the black.
I mean,
the black is over now.
Yeah, he's at the Citadel, so whatever.
I mean, he's got Gilly, so he's like gray.
Who won that one, Dad?
He took the gray.
But it's funny, in that moment that, you see the Dickon and his father, burst into flames and then turn to ash. The rest of those Lannister soldiers, they follow pretty suit and they all take the knee.
No, they took the knees.
They didn't want that to happen to them.
Down. Yeah.
Danny, she what would you say? She showed off in that moment. She showed.
Well, I feel like if they didn't believe it before, like with her flying in on Drogon and capturing everyone and killing the majority of the men, and they're still like, oh no, I'm gonna be faithful to my queen at King's Landing and Cersei, and then like so basically like Randall Tarley is the leader of the men since Jaime's gone. He's like the next in line, I guess, admiral, general, whatever. I don't know ranks and stuff like that. But at the same time, they see this and they're like, yeah, I don't want that to happen to me. I'm all set, thanks, I appreciate it.
I mean, as a coward, I think those guys took the best way. Self-preservation is the first law of man.
Right, exactly. I think we all can agree with that.
But as a soldier, as someone who just fought by his friends and probably family members and they lost their lives, yeah, you take the fire. You stand up because you're a piece of crap from now on, and then you have to sit with the men that slaughtered you and treated you like you're nothing.
I just wonder how much like Daenerys trusts them. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, they bent the knee, but like, what all does that really mean? Because what's to say they don't just turn or give Cersei some like insight on like
instant death?
I guess I don't know. Like I would have reservation if I was in Khaleesi's shoes.
Yeah, if she let him get close, like those guys are going to be monitored, and they can't take a Dothraki, they can't do anything, and they can't outrun a dragon. Really, reality has been altered. The whole paradigm on what you're fighting against has shifted for these men, and I think the fear is strong. I mean, they just saw their leader, or what was left of their leader, just dust.
I mean, it is what it is. Like, I understand it, but I would, for Khaleesi, I mean, she doesn't need.
Oh, she doesn't trust them.
Well, she doesn't need them either. That's like my thing is, I think the Dothraki alone, and Jaime references it in this episode. Like, he's like, we cannot defeat these like savages. He's like, we cannot defeat them.
Well, to quote Orwell, peace through strength.
Oh yeah, now you're getting too deep for me, man.
So from that moment, we get another cool shot where we see Bran. He's warging into the Ravens, and he sees the White Walkers and the Night King himself. And that moment, he then as soon as the Night King takes a look at him, he goes back into his own body. Then we from that moment, then we get another moment between Sansa and Arya.
Yeah, obviously the Bran warging into the Ravens and seeing the Army of the Dead with the Night King, and I think the way, like the reason, like his link to the Ravens broke was because when he was in a vision being the three-eyed raven before, the Night King actually came up and touched him, and so I don't know if the Night King is aware of what's going on now, if he can't continue what he was doing before. I don't know if that's something there. I may be reading into too much on that, but no, we get to see like what the Night King's been acquiring over. You get a look at the size of his army. Yeah, and it's formidable.
Yeah,
it's hard to kill him. Actually, you can't unless you have certain ways to do it. Just because we've gone through that before, but no,
this is not The Walking Dead.
No, it's not, and it was it gets you pumped. Like it's obviously they throw that in there.
Coming.
They throw that in there just to kind of tease what was going to happen the next 2 episodes of this season, and bleed over into season 8. So it's, Eastwatch is they have the sights set on that. The White Walkers do, and the Night King, and that's why Bran's like we've got to send some Ravens like to everywhere, and so he does get to warn everybody about that.
He sent one to Cersei too, I bet.
Oh, I'm sure he did, and she just probably just threw it away.
I don't think so. I think she actually believes that there's dragons, because she kind of said it, but she's so weird. Like, she has her eyes on the prize, irrespective of how stupid that prize is. And I actually misquoted because I said peace through strength is war is peace, is Orwell. And that's all she has on her mind is war and staying on that throne. That's the only thing that matters to her. Her kids don't matter. Her fake air baby doesn't matter. And she's like, oh yeah, they're White Walkers. We'll use them all to help us. Like, everything is about her staying on that throne. Like,
it is, and it makes no sense.
What does she whisper in Jaime's ear? Don't betray me again?
Yeah, she does, and
that's creepy.
A little bit, and then their embrace and whatnot. But
well, it's all creepy. She's embracing her brother.
Yeah,
in all
lover's way. But no, so Sansa and Arya, we also get a shot of them.
Yeah, Littlefinger's he's sneaking around.
That's Littlefinger for you.
Doing what is that really? What is what do you think he's planning? What do you think his ultimate goal is?
So the first thing we see at Winterfell after Bran is the Lords of the North talking to Sansa, saying that she should have been
the Lord in the North should be in the North. What does he say?
Yeah, the King of the North should remain in the North.
Okay. I just love the accent.
And they said that if they could do it again, that they would have just had her as the queen, or the rightful warden, being a Stark and whatnot. And so that's totally, for me at least, that's totally Littlefinger. Like, putting stuff in their ears, the Knights of the Vale, the Mormonts, all the family, the Karstarks, all the families that are
the Umbus.
Yeah, all the families that are in the North. I totally think Littlefinger's kind of twisting their views on Jon and saying like, oh no, this is Sansa. Like, she's a Stark. Her name is Stark. She should belong here. And Arya's just kind of sitting back. But at that point, Sansa does take, I guess, the high road in the public view. Like,
no, she doesn't. Arya busted her out. She did.
She does, but like
soft rebuke.
But in front of everyone, though, she does say, Jon is the king of the North. Blah blah blah. She says the right things there
softly.
But Arya does call her bluff on that. Absolutely,
it's super soft. She was like, "He's the king of the North."
Yeah,
it was like, you will mind your words.
Yeah,
mind your words. Your king is your king.
It's just funny to me, like, Arya and Sansa from season 1 have never gotten along, and they're sisters. I understand that, but at the same time,
easy wedge that Littlefinger's wedging.
Oh, he is for sure. I think he's kind of seen Arya fighting Brienne last week and seeing, okay, well, there's a little more to this little girl, and I feel like he's putting stuff into Sansa's ear. He's putting stuff into the Lord's ear about Sansa and how she should be the rightful heir to the North. And the best part was when Arya is just like, you've always liked nicer things, and she's like, I can see it in you. And she's like, what are you talking about? And like, she's like, I know you can't help but think about it. And obviously it's becoming the Queen of the Seven Kingdoms. It's what I interpreted that as, for me.
For the rest of the season, Arya and Sansa will never be in the same room, but they will still be in the show. The many-faced god will keep Sansa alive. And no one's going to know but Peter Baelish. And then she's going to kill him, and no one's ever going to know. It's just like, where's Arya? She went off. And Sansa's still going to be there.
I cannot wait for Baelish to die. I really cannot. Like, I was hoping as this
he
episode,
might be on the throne when it's all said and done.
Oh God, please not. Please not.
Married to Cersei.
Cersei's gone. Jaime's gonna kill her. I'm not worried about that.
I don't know. I think that's gonna take longer than you think.
So from that moment, we jump back to good old Samwell. He is just sort of still in that monotonous lifestyle of being a maester with his wife. Is his wife's name? What's her name?
Well, it's not his wife.
Yeah, that was about to say.
Oh, is it?
No, it's Gilly.
Concubine,
so
side chick.
I
didn't know that.
He rescued Gilly from this man that
Is
lived
that his
north
child?
of the wall.
Or
It is.
Okay.
That is not his
No, it's
child.
not. No, it's not. I'm sorry.
That
No,
is
it's
her
not.
father's child. That is
Okay, yeah.
an incestuous child.
It was
that's
a
weird.
weird section where this guy always
Nobody in the show is not everybody. I'm convinced everybody in the show is a product of incest. I'm serious. Everybody is.
You mean the show we're watching or the show right here?
No. Hopefully not.
I'm good on that one. But no, so backstory on Gilly. Her husband was actually her father, who he would marry all of his daughters, and then he would consummate the marriage, and then they would have children. But any boy they had, he ended up sacrificing to the Night King. So they left him alone, but it also grew his army. And then also, so Gilly was pregnant with a boy who actually, his name is Sam because Sam saves her. And so they get away. He takes her south of the wall and just kind of tags along. But they ended up having sex at one point, and that scene is actually pretty funny. We should get you to watch that one because Sam's just like, oh.
Actually,
dude, I can imagine.
Have you ever seen Superbad?
Yeah.
You know where McLovin? It's in. That's exactly how it is.
Yeah, that's how you kind of should just picture it in your head.
Spermicidal lube.
Yeah, but but no.
Handle you with the lube.
I think Sam's your favorite character, isn't he?
He's up there, man. I think he has a really cool moment in this episode where it's shortly after this, he's doing his work. I don't what is he writing? I don't know what he's writing. He's researching, and
he's a maester, and they're making him rescribe some of the old text.
Okay.
So that because they were worn, and he basically just does the grunt work still. That's where he's still at.
Well, there's a moment where it just sort of clicks in his mind, and he's like, you know what, enough's enough. I'm tired of this. And in fact, he has what I consider one of the better. I think it's it's a great quote from this episode, and he says, I'm tired of reading about the achievements of better men.
Yeah,
which is a pretty cool quote. And so he decides to take the old Gilly with him, and they pack up and leave the Citadel.
Yeah, well, I think the straw that breaks the camel's back for him is when he's in the chamber of the Archmaester and he's meeting with the other Grand Maesters, and they have the scroll that Bran sent about the White Walkers, and then they're like, oh, it's just a crippled boy who says he can see through Raven's eyes, and he's this three-eyed Raven. And then he kind of speaks up, like he's always there to speak up. He's always like, oh, it's Brandon Stark, and they're like, why are you talking, and stuff like this. But then the Archmaester actually gives Sam a little leash here. Like he does it every episode this season, but he lets him speak his mind and see exactly what he needs to do. And they're saying, why this could be just Daenerys saying this to send all their men to the north so that King's Landing is right for the taking.
The King in the North.
Yeah, but I don't feel bad. I'm happy for Sam. He does go, and so in the first episode of the season, he goes in the restricted section of the Maester's scrolls, and we were all convinced he's gonna get caught. Well, he goes back in the middle of the night in this episode, and I was like, yeah, this is it.
And leaves the door open.
Leaves the door open, steals a bunch of scrolls, and then he gets on the wagon with Gilly and Little Sam, and they head off somewhere. And she always says, you wanted to be the Maester, and then that's where that line comes in where he goes, I'm tired of reading about the achievements of greater men. And so he's got his eyes on the prize. I don't know what the prize is for him, but he's actually
the throne.
I don't know where he wants that. He's not the leader. He'll admit that. But
Little Sam's gonna be a rapper.
His EP's coming out soon. But no, he's. I'm happy for him. I don't know where he's going. I'm guessing maybe back to the wall.
You don't really get a good answer of where he's headed to. If he's going back to the wall, or if he's trying to.
He's definitely going to the north.
You think so?
Oh, he's going back to John for sure.
Oh, you think so?
Yeah.
So I wonder if he'll be part of. We get a look at next week's episode, and he gets if that horse-drawn carriage, if that wagon is anything like those boats, he'll be there in about 8 hours. So
he'll be there.
He'll be there by Sunday, for sure.
So in that moment, we after we say, well, this actually is a little bit out of order because we go to Old Town and then we jump back to Old Town, and that's when we actually see Sam leaving is later in the episode. But right. once we get to Dragonstone after leaving Old Town for the first time, we see an old well, there's a really cool moment where remind me, what's the dragon's name? Drogon, where Dany lands with Drogon right in front of Jon Snow, and Jon Snow gives him a little pat.
Yeah, he gets to touch the dragon,
and nothing happens. And I think that's a
cool embrace.
That's a moment of clarity of these characters to realize that something
of the lineage there. You think?
Yeah. Well, maybe I don't. Does she?
They brought that up at Old Town because they were talking about Rhaegar and his marriage and secret in Dorne.
Secret marriage. Well, that's what Gilly's like reading these things, and she says that to Sam, and he's like, before she can say like,
she actually mentions.
Yeah, before they can say like. They had a child that was in secret as well. Like,
she's talking about what she didn't know what annulment was.
Yeah, and Sam cuts her off before that, and I was just like, we're so close to Sam knowing that he's not, full on Stark here. But no, it was. I think Dany's like, how is this man touching my dragon? Like that's his mind. Like,
well, because didn't you mention that Tyrion has actually?
Tyrion has, yeah.
He's done that before too. So I mean,
that gives my theory I've read about and people have said online that it gives it more validation. Like it does, because no one else has ever touched a dragon besides Targaryens. And so I still think that Tyrion is somehow half Lannister, and his mom was raped by Aegon Targaryen, and he's actually half Targaryen, half Lannister.
Well, there are
so he's only a quarter person.
There's
yeah. That's true. Sorry.
He's 1/3 a person. So later on in the episode, if we have time, we're going to get into some of these crazy the speculation on what could potentially happen in the series. But
we're going to talk about the fluoride in the water in Westeros.
Dude, the freaking the Hound has really nice teeth.
I don't really look at his mouth, never.
Dude, I think I think about his character from Hot Fuzz, and I've seen he does actually have really nice teeth for somebody who doesn't own a toothbrush or toothpaste.
The only teeth I focused on were Drogon's, because they were all up in Jon Snow's face.
They looked so good too, though. Like it was.
That was amazing. A really cool moment.
Amazing. This is the best CGI I've seen in quite some time.
Yeah, I got to think some of that was like sort of a la Jurassic Park. Like once he gets really close to him, I think that was probably a big robotic model of some kind. Probably made out of like rubber or something like that. But
you think like a centerfold model or just like runway?
So, anyways, once we actually get back into Dragonstone, we get a nice little reunion of Dany and of Jorah.
Jorah, yeah.
And that was a cool little reunion there between those two characters. You can tell that Jorah really does care for Daenerys. And
everyone's in love with the attractive woman.
He's like 30 years older than her.
Probably, at least.
Roughly. I mean, I don't know.
His blood's still pumping, though.
Oh, yeah, it is. But no, he's cured of the grayscale.
But now he has that green jealousy.
They did play that up a lot in this episode, and I was just like, okay, we don't need this. We don't really need this, but that's just personal. But no, I kept wondering if Daenerys was going to ask Jon, like, well, how do you think you touched, my dragon? But then, then a Dothraki comes up and says,
we're not all lucky enough to touch a dragon in our lives.
I'd love to. But then a Dothraki comes up and says, this man says he's your friend. Serpents. And it shows that it's Jorah, and you could see, like, Daenerys was so happy to see him, but because she had sent him away saying that you will find the cure to this and you will come back, so you can aid me. And he's back.
And then as soon as he gets back, it's like he cuts out again, like he's out of there.
Well, he's doing this for her now,
right? No. I'm just saying. She says, we're getting awful good at saying goodbye or something to that effect, because it seems like he's there for like a freaking hour, and then next thing you know, he's out of there again, because Jon Snow is he's going back to the north, back to the wall, and Jorah's going with him, and we can't
steamroll past that. I know I kind of mentioned it, but when he walks up they pan to Jon's face.
Oh yeah,
When they have that nice embrace and like, hey, how do you do?
You really think something's gonna happen between the two of them?
Between
nephew and aunt? No, I'm talking about Jon Snow and Daenerys.
No.
Well, Jon Snow he could have said he was going to the wall to get a White Walker because it was his idea and he was going to go anyways. But the way he said it, well, I won't have to because I'll be there. I'm going to go. I'm your man now. And then she smiles at him and they got this weird little love triangle thing going. And I'm like, Garrett, I don't care for it, but it's very heavy-handed and they want you to care about it. There's no way they, like, I was joking. I was like, uh-oh, he's saying goodbye. I bet Jon Snow's about, and then literally the next second, Jon Snow walks out to see him kiss her hand, and he did it in front of him on purpose. You don't want to be like that with the guy you're fighting with.
Or the King of the North, for that matter. But no, it's...
In the North.
Yeah, I'm just like, I could do without it, but I understand it. Like, because they're making it still seem that, because, Jon doesn't know that he's Targaryen. He's, technically Daenerys' nephew.
Do you think he would care?
Yeah, he's kind of noble. Like, he does have no, this is weird now.
She's the fairest woman in all of Seven Kingdoms.
Fairest of them all.
Yeah, only because Marjorie's gone, R.I.P.
And because Sansa is still related to him.
Yeah, they're still related, so. he definitely won't think of her like that because... it's talk about her, undermining him and stuff. So, I don't know. I just, I could do without the whole trying to make a love triangle thing there. And, they even, like, Daenerys was like, I've gotten used to you being here with me at Dragonstone. I was like, oh, God, please stop. Just let him go to the north.
Well, Daenerys hasn't hooked up with anybody in a while.
Yeah, not since the
handsome sellsword.
Yeah, the sellsword that she had that...
Changed faces, didn't he?
Yeah, they changed actors in the middle of the season, so that's another.
You're in the middle of the love scene, actually.
Wouldn't surprise me.
So, like I mentioned, Jon cuts out with his whole little crew for the wall in the north, and Tyrion and Davos, they hop ship back to King's Landing. Tyrion wants to speak with Jaime. And Davos, I'm still a little bit unclear on who this other character is, but Davos pretty much goes back to King's Landing for recruitment almost of Gendry,
Robert Baratheon's bastard.
Yeah. And I thought that was first of all, it was a really cool moment between Jaime and Tyrion because you have not seen them together in quite a while.
No, it's been a minute since Jaime helped him get out of King's Landing after killing Tywin, their dad. We haven't seen, Tyrion or Jaime together. Besides, like the battlefield, they didn't get to talk. So because Jaime was trying to, javelin a dragon, so that was stupid. But no, it was good. And their main, I guess, common thread there is Bronn. Like because I don't know if you know this beforehand, Duncan. Tyrion had Bronn. Like, he kept hiring him. Like, that was, like, his right-hand man. Well, then when Tyrion gets banished from King's Landing, Bronn stays. And so that's when Jaime has to learn how to fight again because he's lost his sword hand. Okay. And so Bronn kind of trains him on there. And so you have the relationship between Bronn and Tyrion from, early seasons, and then now Bronn and Jaime. And then Bronn's kind of it's funny because Jaime even says something like they're supposedly going to train, and they go into the dungeons, or I guess the dungeons where the dragon skulls are kept. And Jaime's like, "Why the hell are you taking me down here?" Basically, and he's like, "Well, nobody wants to see you fight, up there, and because he's not good." Like,
okay, without his hand, sure.
He's using his offhand, and so he's still learning how to train and how to fight with it correctly and swing the sword, but. Come to find out, Bronn was just trying to let him meet.
So do you think Tyrion got in touch with Bronn somehow and was like, "Hey,"
had to. That's only. I mean,
they don't show it, but
yeah. I mean, there's a lot of things they don't show, but they
Cersei knew about it.
Yeah, that's the other thing for me. Like Cersei's, she knows all now. I'm just like, oh, this is kind of. She's like, nothing happens under my watch that I don't know about, kind of deal.
He can't kill Bronn. That's his only. His anchor to sanity in this whole world. Like, he loves his sister because, one, he can't get over that love, passion, and lust he has for her, like, just all mixed together. But he's no dummy. Like, he knows that she's off. Like, we've seen it every episode. Whenever they're in the same room, it's not smooth like it used to be. That the thrill is gone.
No, you can definitely see the tension between them. And I actually said this to you when we were watching, that you can honestly see, like, if you had like your fingers woven, they're slowly bringing the two apart.
Right.
And so that
which is, I think, is for the best.
Oh, it's given the validity to the whole prophecy of, her younger brother's gonna strangle her, and she's still worried about Tyrion. But I just, my gut is saying it's Jaime.
Yeah,
it's gonna kill her. So,
well,
she's hated her brother for a long time too, though. Hated Tyrion.
Oh yeah,
even before this all started, she never cared for him.
Well, the whole reason that Tyrion and Davos are going to King's Landing is Tyrion knows he's got to talk to Jaime, because they're going to try to bring a White Walker to Cersei so she actually believes it. Like, that's the whole premise of them going back, was so Tyrion could talk to Jaime, and he knew Jaime would talk hopefully some sense into his sister. Didn't really happen, but and then Davos wants to go because he wants to get Gendry, who is Robert Baratheon's bastard son, which
one of them.
I knew
the only surviving one.
You asked, you're like, I don't know who this guy is. We haven't seen Gendry in like 4 seasons. The last thing we saw of him, Davos, who went to go back and get him, gave him a boat and just told him to start rowing. And he actually, I guess he told him to go back to King's Landing and get his old blacksmith job back, which he did. And he said, keep you right under the queen's nose. She'll never even know. Really, Davos is actually really smart, but it comes off just kind of like, whatever. And they actually take Gendry back to Dragonstone, and he is going with Jon and Jorah to Eastwatch, and
Jorah Mormont.
that's why that's how they all kind of get together on that. And it was funny because he references, I'm not good with the sword. Like he makes them. He's like, I don't have time for this, but he pulls out he's like, I'll use something that's more comfortable to me, and it's this huge hammer. And I was so like, please let us see him use it. Please let us see him use it. And so when
you don't think he is there for a minute,
you don't. And so Davos is they're back on their boat. They're getting back to.
They're on the shore and they're getting ready to head off, and then they kind of get accosted by 2
gold cloaks,
Jay and Silent Bob. There,
yeah. They come back, and Davos he's a talker. He can talk his way out of stuff, and he shows them some crab that gives you a
fermented crab.
Yeah, and makes you good.
Which
in
is
the
like
sack.
Apparently Westeros's
aphrodisiac of choice.
It's Westeros's version of Viagra, I guess.
Yeah,
or
Cialis.
That's what I was trying to think of. I couldn't think of a freaking name.
Oysters or per se.
Oh yeah, they put lead in your pencil.
Can we talk about
he
how?
Says, dude, it's so funny. He's like, be careful with that. It'll poke a hole in your chainmail or something like that.
I love that part.
That was pretty funny.
Those guys were kind of slovenly dressed for Lannister or Kingsguard, weren't they?
Yeah, a little bit.
They
I
were
thought the same thing. They were small, like they were,
and they look poor.
They looked homely. They really did.
Yeah.
And so Davos and Gendry are pushing the boat, and they're almost away. Well, then here comes Tyrion, and he gets past them, but then they're like, hey, wait a minute, we're looking for a dwarf with a scar. And he's like, oh, no, it's a fishing accident. Don't mind me. And then all of a sudden they start, and they act like they're going to get him, and then we see Gendry use his hammer like Thor. Dude, it was fantastic.
They take it to the freaking face, man, and the side of the head.
That was pretty brutal. I like the way he spun it around. It really... Because he's hitting the hammer all day long. He's a pretty strong guy. Every day he's working out.
Right.
So he's going to be throwing that thing around pretty well.
Davos, too, tells him, like, okay, you're just going to say your name's Gendry. That's as far as we're going. We're not going to tell you anybody, like, who you actually are. Yeah, that lasts for, like, 4 minutes. Like, he gets back to Dragonstone, and he goes up to Jon Snow, and Davos says, yeah, this is Gendry. He goes, hey, I'm Gendry, Robert Baratheon's bastard. And then Jon's like...
He's like, well,
the heck did you just say to me?
Yeah, they were barely
Davos
out of
is
the,
like that he was not supposed to say that.
River, and he was already telling him who he was.
Yeah, I was just like, well, to each his own, I guess. But he wants to fight with Jon. Like, they know where they're going. They know they're going to the north. He's like, our fathers fought together. Why can't we? And so it was a good moment for me.
Right.
Like, I'm just happy Gendry's back. Like, I told Will.
Yeah, you called it.
Like, I was like, oh, if he goes and gets Gendry, I'm gonna lose it, because we haven't seen him in so long, and it was just like a huge unknown of where he was going. And I literally just on the couch, I was like, oh my god, it's Gendry, like over like a small character, but I didn't care. So
you see how fast he was so happy to get out of there,
Dude, yeah,
He jumped in there, let's
seemed
go.
miserable.
Put his bag on.
Well,
ready
he's
to go.
making swords for the literally for the people that one tried to kill him. That's important, and killed his father.
Yeah,
Father.
You got to put that accent in there.
I hear you, man.
Killed my father.
his daddy.
Put a little Chappelle in it. Killed my father.
So, but yeah, our little crew there: Jon Snow, Jorah. Who else? Davos.
Well, Davos goes to Eastwatch, but he doesn't actually.
Oh, that's okay.
Go north
And
of
then
the wall.
Gendry. They all they go back to the wall, and the Travelocity guy's waiting for them.
Tormund.
And they just so happens they've got a couple of prisoners that they had caught while
I call BS on that as well.
how so?
How can you catch the Hound?
Exactly.
Oh, okay. Maybe he just
Not the
was,
same thing.
Maybe he was just like, whatever.
I'm sure Barrick.
He's
Dondarrion was
very like just whatever at this point.
I'm sure Baron was like, no, we need these. Like, this is all part of the plan. Blah blah blah, whatever. Because he's like the Lord of Light and all his crap. All that stuff. I think he probably said, whatever. Let's just get caught. Like, we'll get some shelter because they said that they caught him a mile north of the wall. So we don't exactly know because normally we're at Castle Black when we go to the wall. Now we are hundreds of miles east of there at Eastwatch, and so John had sent Tormund there. We hadn't seen him since season or episode 2 or 3 maybe, and so it was great for me. I love Tormund when he's on the screen. Like, it's always something funny he says, and they go and they see the Hound and Barrick, and I can never remember the name of the guy who always brings Barrett Dondarrion back, and so they say like, oh, we're here for a common purpose, and somebody mentions what's the difference between us and like the Hound and Barrett, like what's the difference between us and the other guys on the wall, and Gendry pipes up. He goes, because these guys tried to sell me back to a Red Witch to have me killed, and blah blah blah. And John kind of has the best line there. He goes, "We're all breathing," and then he opens the door and they head out to north of the wall.
As a reason why they should pair up. They should team up. Why should they do that? And John says, because we're all breathing.
Yeah, they're crazy enough to go out there with the White Walkers. Okay, you can come with us.
Exactly.
And yeah, that's kind of where this episode wraps up. Is we get our we finally get our look at who's going to be taking on the White Walkers, and then we get a look at next week's episode, and it seems like some S is going to go down for sure.
I have the text from that letter that Arya read. If you care.
Okay.
Oh, okay. Yeah, we couldn't read it in the episode. What does it say?
So if you remember when Sansa early on,
she's sneaking around,
and Cersei takes her to the side and makes her write a note, and the note she has to write is to go to Winterfell, and it's, Rob, I write to you with a heavy heart. Our good King Robert is dead, killed from wounds he took in a boar hunt. Father has been charged with treason. He conspired with Robert's brothers against my beloved Joffrey and tried to steal his throne. The Lannisters are treating me very well and provide me with every comfort. I beg you, come to King's Landing, swear fealty to Joffrey, and prevent any strife between the great houses of Lannister and Stark. And then, of course, it'll say like, Sansa. Now, if that's what Arya read, it is going to take everything in her not to kill Sansa immediately.
Oh, yeah.
But I think that she's wise enough to know that Littlefinger is devious, but I don't think she knows how devious Littlefinger is, because she did all that and she was like, oh, no, clearly he wouldn't do that. But he can see something in her that she's that crafty. And he's a slithery guy.
Slytherin.
I'm so ready for it.
You and I speak ill of Slytherin.
I'm so ready for Arya to kill Littlefinger. I just can't wait.
He's not going to die like that.
It's got to be Arya, though, don't you think?
No, Sansa. In the throes of passion, or supposed passion.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, I mean that's kind of once we get a look at our who are the little crew of guys that's going to be taking on the
all 8 of them. I was just
well, I mean there was more guys behind them.
We see them running in the preview for next week.
Yeah, and it's just
unnamed
like them.
soldiers.
So for me, I'm like, hey, you could take a few more, because if the scroll that John received from Bran saying, that they're the army of the dead's marching. It's not just like the group of the dead. Like it's an army. Like, and it's very formidable.
It's not the club of the dead.
Yeah, I don't think John maybe thought this one all the way through, but
maybe not.
We'll find out next week. Looks like.
Yeah. So that pretty much wraps it up for this episode. I guess do we have any sort of thoughts overall in this episode, where things are going, before we get into what we're going to talk about here at the last little bit of this episode?
I don't think anything's really changed.
Yeah, this was sort of there's not too much that happens in this episode that would lead you to believe.
It's just a bridge episode, basically, to get us.
It was still really good, though. I really enjoyed it.
This season's been fantastic.
Right.
And I think they kind of strategically planned it this way to shorten season. Like we're gonna get more action, more gears in motion.
It's like a gear of war.
Oh. I see what you did there, but no, I have no problem. I told Will this. I think when Cersei was telling Jaime, she's pregnant, and that he says, like, who are you gonna name the father? And she says, you. She's totally playing him. Like, I don't think she's pregnant. Like, in everything in me, I don't think she's pregnant, and I think she knows that if she says this, like, she'll kind of get him back a little bit.
Happens all the time.
So
while I was waiting for you guys to get over here, I just hopped on YouTube real quick, and it turns out that one of the guys that I follow that I kind of model a lot of what I do on this channel after is kind of inspiration for this whole thing. A guy named Mr. Sunday Movies. He posted a video that I thought was actually pretty cool, and it was sort of like the top five theories and speculation people seem to buy into on the internet. And I thought it would be cool to kind of go through these real quick and see what we thought about. Some of them are like absolutely ridiculous. Some of them I think are kind of reasonable, but I just thought it would be kind of cool to go through these and see what we thought about them. He starts off the video by talking about how at the in season 1, Robert, when he goes to Winterfell, everyone that he meets there at Winterfell, when he first goes to Winterfell, ends up dying. Like, there's like 5 people that include Ned Stark and a few other people that they all end up dying in one way or another after meeting Robert.
He's saying that they're going to die, or they already have.
They already have. Everyone, all of them are. I don't know who they were, but.
And it's all men, or
no. There was a couple of women and three different men, including Ned Stark. One girl got her throat slit. There was like 2 younger kids.
And this is when in season 1.
It's season 1,
when Robert goes to
Winterfell.
Well, I mean, like, John's still alive. He was there.
It's a particular
Arya.
Group of people. There's like a particular group of people that he greets when he comes there, and they all end up dying.
Okay. I'll have to go back and watch that.
That was just sort of just to say that there are things in this show that started out as theory that ended up somewhat coming true. There was another moment that he showed of Khal Drogo coming into contact. I don't know the other character's name, but Drogo. This other character puts his sword into Drogo's chest, sort of like as intimidation, and it just so happens it's like the same exact spot that the dragon takes the spear.
I could see that.
Yeah,
I could see that more. Even the whole mythos with the Dothraki is they're from horses. Like that's kind of like their whole like.
It's funny that laugh sounded like a horse.
Thanks, man.
Mr. Ed.
But I could see that. Like that's reasonable.
Yeah, but the first real bit of speculation that he talks about in the video is with Bran's abilities. The whole big green explosion from last season. Bran attempted to convince the Mad King through his abilities to burn the White Walkers, and somehow in his mind that ended up being converted into that everyone should burn. That was all due to Bran.
I don't think so, because Bran's been on point with his powers in his infancy of having the powers. Why would it be worse later on?
I can't see that one.
Right. And then this is something that we've touched upon several times in the podcast. The next one that he mentions is that that there's several more secret Targaryens out there that we know about.
I don't doubt that one.
That there are, obviously it's at this point that Jon Snow is half Targaryen, and that the idea is that there could be several more Targaryens out there like Tyrion.
Yeah, I'm 100% on, or I'm not 100% sure, but I'm on the train that Tyrion is half Targaryen.
They're the only ones that have touched the dragons.
Yeah, for me, that's kind of an easy one to say, like personally, because every king has bastards.
Oh yeah,
that's kind of my thinking, and so Aegon probably had some.
They're like
Rhaegar
NBA
had
players.
one.
King James doesn't have any bastards.
They're like NBA players or NFL players.
Baseball.
Baseball.
Presidents.
Governors.
That's actually a good story. Just like 2 seconds. He got his wife and the maid pregnant at the same time.
Oh yeah, because I guess those kids are the same age. This next one I thought was pretty cool because I don't know anything about this character. Roose Bolton. Mm-hmm. Roose Bolton.
Okay.
Some people seem to think that he is like some kind of weird, like immortal vampire type creature. I mean, he's dead now, but the idea is that his description from the novels is someone that doesn't seem to age, and he has like pale, almost grayish skin. And the idea is that he only has children to eventually kill them, and then he can wear their skin to hide his.
You're getting out there now, man.
Yeah, I know, this is crazy. But the idea is that's the only reason why he kept Ramsay alive for as long as he did, and named him his heir. And his idea was that he would eventually kill him and take his skin, because he's like a weird vampire creature.
Crossing over a little bit too much there.
I don't know, man.
The lead got heavy in the water there.
I'm just pulling out these from this video.
Well, not those from the keister.
The next one is that George R. R. Martin he's apparently stated that all of the Stark children can warg in one way or another.
Heard that before.
Yeah. And that not just Bran. And
some people, this is like really out there. Some people think that Ned Stark.
That's where I'm going with
warged
this.
before he got beheaded.
He died.
Yeah.
And he warged into one of those birds or a raven.
Into a raven.
That's where I was going with this. This particular theory is that Ned Stark warged out of his own body right before he died into a bird, and then he's still out there somewhere.
He's pulling a Charles Xavier. That's all he's doing on us. What's up, Wheels?
Logan.
Or there's an idea out there that he warged into his sword, Ice. But apparently that sword isn't around anymore. It got like melted down and turned into two swords.
So Ice turned into fire?
Yeah.
He got burned. I don't know about
some of these are kind of out there. I will say this. There's a last couple here that were kind of crazy. Like one is like that Ned Stark and Robert were secretly in love with each other.
You're getting way out there now, man.
And the last one, these sort of teeter off. The first few I thought were pretty good, but these last few are kind of crazy. The last one that he mentions is that he seems that there are people out there that seem to think that George R. R. Martin he's already written all of this stuff, and
hasn't released it.
He just has not released it in the books yet.
I could see that. I mean, I think writers go through many drafts before they actually get it published and stuff, but.
There's this other silly one that people seem to think that Westeros.
Why would you want the show out before the book, though?
I mean, I guess eventually it would,
maybe because it just took off the way it did.
Yeah,
that's my only thinking on it. Like he probably was writing it, during like season 2 and 3, and he already had the 4 major books in the series, and then he was writing the final one, and he's like, well, let's just see what these guys do with it and see how close it is. And then, after everything's done, he's like, oh, yeah, I've had this done for like 6 years. And here you go. This is how it actually ended. And you're like, well, I got gypped.
The last one here that he mentioned, I think I missed this one. So there are people out there that seem to think that Westeros is Middle Earth in the future. Like Westeros is the future of Middle Earth.
Lord of the Rings?
Yeah.
So you mean they didn't get any better with time?
Yeah. Well, there's like magic and sorcery and stuff like that in Lord of the Rings, but there really isn't any of that in Game of Thrones, and
There isn't.
it seems
People
to,
are being brought
well,
back
there's
to
not
life.
as much.
There's dragons.
not as much of it.
People blowing up.
We don't have rings though, so it can't be obviously.
There's no
That's
golems.
true. There's not a lot of people are married in this.
Well, that just about wraps it up for this week's episode, guys. I appreciate you guys taking the time to be here. One thing I did want to mention is Will and I will be at a convention this weekend, the Golden Triangle Comic-Con in Columbus, Mississippi. We will we'll be down there. We will do our best to get some interviews. We will be shooting a couple of videos for the Grind City Geek channel. We'll be doing, I think the plan is that we are going to actually do a podcast from the floor, from the show floor with Ryan, who is also from your other podcast, Powers Not Included.
Yes.
So it'll be me, you, and Ryan, and we'll be doing some collaborative type stuff while we're down there. It'll sort of be of a melding of the two, an amalgam, as you have so put it. So, that's, look out for that. Keep in tune with this channel, with the Powers Not Included podcast channel, and then, of course, with my YouTube channel. And we will have some pretty cool videos and podcast stuff coming out from that, after this weekend. So, we got Defenders coming up, so that'll be fun to talk about.
Stoked.
Yeah, we're really excited about that. So, yeah, keep an eye out on all that. And, there should be some exciting stuff coming out of that. So, yeah, so Garrett, appreciate you taking the time to be here, man.
Thank you, sir.
And Will, thanks again for making your triumphant return. Hopefully we don't miss you again, man, because it's not the same without you.
The North remembers.
And I am Duncan, and you can find me online at Grind City Geek. And appreciate you guys taking the time to watch this episode, and we will see you next week. Bye, guys.
Bye.
See ya.